Okay, so get ready because today we're diving into a true crime story. It's one that'll really make you think twice about first impressions. We're going to be looking into the murder of Jana Murray in Bethesda, Maryland.
Oh, yeah. I know this one.
You gave me a podcast episode, a book, and some news articles about this case.
Wow, that's a lot of material.
Think we can piece together what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. This case is so fascinating. At first it seems like just a straightforward robbery, like open and shut.
Yeah.
But then it just takes this crazy turn into this whole maze of lies and just crazy manipulation.
Yeah, it's like ripped from the headlines, It's
Yeah.
almost like the writers from Law and Order were like, ooh, let's take inspiration from this. So you hear about this brutal murder of Jana and the attack on her coworker, Brittany Norwood,
Right.
and immediately think, okay, it must have been two masked intruders. But that's not the case.
Yeah, that's where things get really, really complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah, the initial reports, like if you look at those, they paint this picture of just chaos.
Yeah.
Like there's a shattered TV merchandise is just strewn about everywhere. There's a bloody shoe print.
Oh, wow.
It all points to, just a robbery gone wrong.
Right. Especially with all the commotion going on next door at the time.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
It was March 11th, 2011, and the Apple store next door to Lululemon was going crazy.
Oh, right. The new iPad.
With the release of the iPad 2.
Yeah.
People were going nuts.
I remember that.
Some of the Apple employees even said that they heard some strange noises coming from Lululemon.
Like what?
They said they heard like banging and grunting and even a woman screaming.
Wow.
But they just dismissed it as like, just some drama.
Oh, my gosh. That's so interesting because that seemingly, insignificant detail, like them dismissing those sounds, that actually points to a much larger thing.
What's that?
The bystander effect. Makes you think, had those employees actually intervened, could things have been different?
Yeah.
And it's a chilling reminder that our assumptions and inactions, they can have some serious consequences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. It really makes you stop and think. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you're like, should I get involved? Should I not get involved? It's a tough call. But maybe knowing about the bystander effect can help us be more aware in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's all about recognizing that even these like small, seemingly minor events can actually be something much bigger.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now let's get to know the two women at the center of this story.
Okay.
So we have Jana Murray.
Okay.
Vibrant 30-year-old. She absolutely loved her job at Lululemon.
Yeah, and the eerie thing is that she was actually working on a crisis communication plan for the company
What?
as part of her master's thesis.
Oh my gosh.
It's like this tragic twist of fate,
Yeah.
considering the crisis that was about to happen.
Seriously, talk about foreshadowing.
Like,
So then we have Brittany Norwood.
okay.
28 years old, described as ambitious, but she has a past that includes stealing and even some violence.
Oh, wow.
And she'd recently transferred to the Bethesda store after having some issues at another location. That's interesting.
And that pattern of behavior is going to be crucial for us to understanding what happened next.
I bet.
So back to that Friday night.
Okay.
So Brittany's story was that after closing up, she and Jana realized that they had left some personal items behind.
Okay.
So they go back to the store only to be confronted by two masked men
Oh, no.
who brutally attack them.
Wow.
And her story was incredibly detailed
Oh, really?
and horrifying.
What did she say?
She claimed that she was tied up with zip ties,
Oh, my God.
enduring racial slurs and a brutal assault, even witnessing Jana's murder.
Wow. So it was a story expertly crafted to really make her seem like the victim.
And the police initially believed her.
Yeah, makes sense.
The crime scene seemed to back up her story, too.
Yeah.
Registers were open, safes were emptied, there were clear signs of a struggle.
Wow.
A full investigation was launched, and a large reward was offered for information.
So they really thought that she was the victim at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But here's where things take a turn.
As investigators dig deeper, they start to notice these discrepancies between Brittany's story and the evidence
Wow.
that they're finding.
So what kind of discrepancies are we talking?
Well, take, for example, the bloody shoe prints.
Okay.
They found two sets,
Two sets.
one matching Brittany's size 7.5 New Balances,
Okay.
and another much larger size 14 Reebok print.
Okay, so two attackers, two sets of footprints. It seems to add up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But if we go back to those Apple employees and their timeline,
Okay.
their accounts suggest that the attack actually happened much earlier than Brittany claimed.
Oh, really?
Plus, the larger Reebok prints seem staged,
Staged.
like someone intentionally put them there.
Wow.
Their pattern didn't match a natural movement.
So you're saying that someone purposely made those prints?
Yeah. And get this, so size 14 Reeboks
Okay.
were later found tucked away in a drawer at the store.
What?
They were actually men's shoes that Lululemon kept on hand for customers to try on pants.
Oh my goodness. So this crucial piece of the puzzle was just right there the whole time.
Yeah.
And no one even realized it.
It makes you wonder what other seemingly unimportant details were missed.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, and that wasn't the only piece of evidence that started to unravel Brittany's story.
Really? What else did they find?
Well, they discovered Jana's car abandoned a few blocks from the store.
Okay.
And guess what?
What?
Brittany's blood was inside.
So despite her initial claims,
Yeah.
she was in the car.
Uh-huh.
Now things are looking really suspicious.
Now they are.
And let's not forget, the police had footage of two men leaving the area around the time of the attack.
Right.
But they were later identified as restaurant workers
Oh, okay.
on their way to a late shift, completely unrelated.
So a classic case of mistaken identity.
A red herring.
Yeah.
So if those men weren't the attackers, and it's clear Brittany was lying about some things,
Yeah.
what did the police start to think?
Well, all signs were starting to point to one chilling possibility. Brittany Norwood had staged the entire scene.
What?
She was the sole perpetrator
Whoa.
in Jana Murray's murder.
That's a huge twist.
Yeah.
But what could have possibly driven her to do such a thing? Like, to go to these lengths?
That's what we're going to uncover next.
Okay.
We need to dig a little deeper into Brittany's past and figure out what her motive was in this shocking crime.
Okay, let's do it.
Right.
So it seems like this wasn't some random act of violence, you know?
Right.
To understand what could have pushed Brittany to such extremes, I guess we need to look back at her history.
Yeah.
What kind of person were we dealing with?
That's the question that really haunted investigators.
Yeah.
It seems like every corner they turned, they just uncovered another layer of deception.
Mm.
And it wasn't just the incident at Lululemon.
Right.
There was a pattern of stealing that stretched all the way back to Brittany's college days.
You mentioned that earlier. What exactly happened back there?
Well, she was actually accused of stealing from her friends. And eventually, she was asked to leave the university.
So this wasn't just a one-time slip-up. It seems like this was already a part of who she was.
It's a fascinating and frankly disturbing aspect of this whole case.
Yeah.
This tendency to just take things that don't belong to you, to deceive people around you.
Right.
It speaks to something much deeper.
Yeah.
Was it kleptomania?
Yeah.
Was it a need for control? Or something else?
Right.
It's a question that could be debated endlessly.
It's hard to pinpoint the exact reason, but it's clear that this wasn't isolated.
Yeah.
This pattern of deception followed her.
It did. And later on, she stole from her own sister.
Oh, wow.
And was even accused of stealing from her coworkers at the Georgetown Lululemon.
So it's like this temptation to take what wasn't hers was always there.
It seems that way.
Like she was living this double life.
Yeah.
Outwardly ambitious and driven, but with this dark secret.
Yeah.
How does this all tie into Jana's murder?
Okay, so this is where the pieces of the puzzle really start to come together. Just days before the attack, Jana and the other employees had suspected Brittany of stealing again.
Oh, wow.
They'd even discussed how to catch her in the act.
So Jana was onto her. That must have created some serious tension between them.
Absolutely. Imagine the pressure Brittany must have been feeling.
Yeah.
She had a job interview lined up at a local gym,
Oh, okay.
and getting caught stealing would have jeopardized everything.
Right.
So on that Friday night, Jana catches Brittany, red-handed, trying to leave the store with a pair of stolen yoga pants.
Really? Yoga pants.
Yep. And while we may never know exactly what happened during their confrontation, what followed was a brutal and senseless act of violence.
It's crazy that something as small as yoga pants could lead to this.
It is. It really is. And I think it's a stark reminder that we never truly know what's going on in someone else's mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
What demons they might be battling.
It's a chilling thought. Do you think she saw Jana as an obstacle?
It's possible, fueled by panic and rage. Brittany may have felt cornered,
Yeah.
with no way out but to silence Jana for good.
And then to cover up her crime, she made up this whole elaborate story about two masked attackers, even using racial slurs to mislead investigators.
Yeah, it was a disturbing manipulation of the situation.
Trying to use people's fears to protect herself.
Exactly, and for a while it worked.
But eventually the truth always comes out.
It does, and in this case it was through the hard work of the investigators.
Yeah, they really put in the work.
They analyzed every little piece of evidence, from the shoe prints to the blood in the car,
Yeah.
until Brittany's web of lies unraveled.
It really shows the power of a thorough investigation.
It does.
So with all of this evidence against Brittany, does she finally confess?
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
But surprisingly, no.
Really?
Even when confronted with everything, Brittany maintained her innocence.
Even with everything pointing to her guilt, that's unbelievable.
I know it's hard to understand how someone could hold on to a lie so tightly.
Yeah.
Even her family struggled to accept the truth.
Really?
They believed her story and expressed sympathy for her.
It's just a heartbreaking situation for everyone.
It really is.
A family grappling with this unimaginable truth, torn between loyalty and the reality of what their sister had done.
It speaks to the complexities of human nature.
For sure. So what happened with the trial? They had all this evidence, but did they have enough to convict her without a confession?
The trial began in October 2011.
Okay.
And while the prosecution faced a little bit of a setback,
Uh-oh, what happened?
some key evidence about the yoga pants was deemed inadmissible.
Because of hearsay.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
But they still had a mountain of evidence against her.
Okay. And Brittany, did she finally admit to the crime in court?
Well, in a surprising turn of events, her defense attorney actually admitted Brittany's guilt right from the start.
Wow, really?
It seemed their strategy was to try for a second-degree murder conviction instead of first degree.
Oh, so they were acknowledging she killed Jana, but were trying to paint it as a less severe crime.
Right. They argued that the killing wasn't premeditated,
Okay.
but rather a crime of passion.
Did the jury buy it?
They did not.
Okay.
After deliberating for just 21 minutes, they found Brittany Norwood guilty of first-degree murder.
21 minutes. That's incredibly fast.
It shows how strong the case against her was.
Wow.
The jury saw through her lies and recognized the premeditation and the brutality of her actions.
So justice was served for Jana Murray, but what about Brittany? What was her sentence?
Brittany was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole,
Wow.
and the judge was visibly shaken by the case.
Yeah.
He described the chilling calculation behind Brittany's actions and the just horrific nature of the crime.
It's hard to believe that something as simple as stealing yoga pants could spiral into such a horrific tragedy.
It is.
This case started with petty theft and ended with a life loss, a family shattered, and a community left reeling.
It really does.
It leaves us with a lot to think about.
It makes you question everything you think you know about people and the choices they make.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of trust, the dark side of ambition, and the ripple effects of violence. Speaking of which, let's talk about the impact this crime had on Jana's family, the community, and even the judge who presided over the case. Yeah, it's hard to even imagine the impact that this whole thing had on everyone, you know? I mean, Jana's family, the community, even the judge who sentenced Brittany,
Right.
they were all just so deeply affected by, the sheer brutality of it all.
It's true that the ripple effects of violence like that, especially in a community like Bethesda,
Yeah.
that's supposed to be safe and affluent,
Yeah.
it's profound. It's long lasting,
Yeah. Right.
It left people feeling vulnerable, like their sense of security was just shattered.
You mentioned the judge was particularly affected by this case.
Yeah.
What was it about this crime that resonated so deeply with him?
Well, during the sentencing, he actually shared this really powerful anecdote.
Okay.
He talked about going home one night and repeatedly banging his fist on a table,
Oh, wow.
trying to physically replicate the 300 blows that Brittany inflicted on Jana.
Oh, my gosh.
It took him over 8 minutes, and he was utterly exhausted.
That's a really visceral way to kind of illustrate, the sheer brutality and just the prolonged nature of the attack.
Yeah, it goes beyond just reading the facts on paper.
Right.
It's about experiencing, even in a small way, the level of violence that was inflicted.
It really shows his commitment to understanding the gravity of the crime,
Yeah.
going beyond just the detached legal perspective to really grasp what Jana went through.
To grasp the suffering that she endured.
It's a judge who clearly takes his responsibility very seriously.
Absolutely.
But what about Brittany's family? How did they cope with all of this?
I can't even imagine what they went through,
Yeah.
They stood by her, believing her story, defending her innocence,
Right.
and then to have that trust just completely shattered,
Yeah.
to confront the reality of her actions.
Yeah.
It's an unbearable burden to carry.
It speaks to the complexities of family loyalty, that just unwavering love and support,
Right.
and the challenge of reconciling that love with these horrific acts.
Absolutely. How do you even begin to process something like that?
And while Brittany did express remorse during her sentencing, begged for forgiveness from Jana's family,
Yeah.
It's understandable why they might find it hard to accept.
Of course.
The pain of losing their daughter, the utter senselessness of it all.
It's unimaginable.
So Brittany is now serving a life sentence without parole.
Right.
But what about the aftermath for everyone else?
Yeah.
Did life in Bethesda ever return to normal after such a devastating event?
It's hard to define what normal even means after something like that, you know?
Right.
But there were definitely efforts made to heal, to remember Jana, and to find some semblance of peace amidst all the grief.
What kind of efforts?
Well, Jana's family established a foundation in her name,
Oh, wow.
offering scholarships to help others achieve their dreams.
That's a beautiful way to honor her memory.
It is transforming their pain into something positive.
Taking such a dark event and turning it into a force for good.
Yeah.
And there was another really touching tribute.
What was that?
The Lululemon store where Jana worked, they installed this beautiful stained glass window above the entrance.
Really?
Yeah, it's a colorful mosaic with the word love prominently displayed.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a powerful symbol of hope and healing,
is.
and a reminder that love can endure even in the darkest of times.
Yeah,
What happened to the window when the store relocated?
that's a good question. They could have just left it behind,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
What did they do?
They sent it to Jana's brother,
Wow.
a tangible piece of her legacy for him to cherish.
That's amazing. And for those who want to remember Jana in her vibrant, joyful essence,
Yeah.
there's a video she posted online a few months before her death.
Oh, wow.
She's bungee jumping, celebrating her 30th birthday,
Yeah.
radiating pure joy.
It's a good reminder to live life to the fullest,
It is.
to embrace every moment and to appreciate the people we love.
So after this deep dive into this heartbreaking case, what stands out to you?
For me, it's just the chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving.
We initially see Brittany as this victim, but the truth is much more complex and disturbing.
Absolutely. And it makes you think about Jana's work on that crisis communication plan.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like she had a premonition of what was going to happen.
Right.
It makes you wonder about fate,
Yeah.
Choices we make, the unseen forces that shape our lives.
Fascinating concept.
Well, if you're interested in learning more about this case, we have links to the book and articles in the show notes.
Awesome.
This is a case that stays with you long after you've heard the details. Thanks for diving in with us.